Today's webcast is going to focus on the SEC's XBRL mandate in automated external financial statement reporting. The product demonstration you will see is IBM's Cognos financial statement reporting application, also oftentimes referred to as Cognos FSR or simply FSR. A couple items to get out of the way very quickly. One being the agenda is that we're going to go over and discuss the SEC's XBRL mandate. Afterwards, I'm going to further discuss additional issues within the process leading up to and beyond the SEC's XBRL mandate. Going to furthermore discuss the solution for the SEC's XBRL mandate and additional issues within the process. And notice that is a singular solution. There will be a product demonstration today. Throughout the product demonstration, I'll be discussing the benefits of the solution, as well as discussing some of those benefits after the product demonstration has taken place. Secondarily, I did want to highlight here for you that you do have a live chat panel box. Please make use of that. You can send questions directly to myself throughout the presentation. I will reserve some time at the end of the presentation to address your questions. I'll be able to quickly summarize your comments as well as the questions and put those out to the wider audience, and I look to and expect to be able to answer all of your questions. So let's take a look at the timeline for the SEC's XBRL mandate. Here we can see that it is well underway, and the idea is that depending where you are and depending on the size of your organization, the XBRL mandate may have had a different timeline for you. Regardless of where your timeline has brought you, and your organization for that matter has brought you, the idea is that the mandate is really one and the same. There are a number of phases specifically, and the first phase typically deals with detailed tagging of your financial statements. There's also a block tagging exercise of the notes and schedules, and the liabilities are as furnished. As you enter into your second year of the wave or of the timeline for the SEC's XBRL mandate, you are still required to bring forward all of your detail and block tagging notes and schedules. However, the liability now becomes as filed, and we'll discuss what that perhaps means for you and what that means for your organization upcoming here in our session today. So automation everywhere but the last mile of financial reporting. This pretty much paints a picture of what your organization, generally speaking of course, has invested in, whether it be time, resources, and technology, for certain items such as planning and modeling, budgeting and forecasting, consolidation and reporting. However, as part of the last mile where you find yourselves in the XBRL mandate dealing with specifically, when it comes to creating some of the most highly visible, highly sensitive documents that your organization will ever produce, highly scrutinized as well, I might add, such as, and doesn't limit you to, but definitely includes 10K documents, 10Q documents, MD&As, annual reports, earnings releases, and call scripts. Very often what we're finding is that manual processes dominate the last mile. Most organizations are spending more time preparing the reports than actually analyzing them. Now we add on an additional layer of complexity and an additional layer or task as it relates to your time, which is XBRL and the mandate from the SEC. So let's discuss a few additional and common issues and pain points leading up to, and really that's still a part and parcel of the mandate. And this will continue even after the mandate and even after you've continued to deal with XBRL for a number of quarters, a number of filings, and a number of years. These issues are related to the number of contributors you have, the number of reviewers, approvers, document managers, and report consumers. They're normally and quite often using a very familiar tool set, which is Microsoft Office suite of products. Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, may also be utilizing Outlook for email communication, perhaps also using Adobe files for supporting documentation in the forms of PDF as an example, outside of the Microsoft family obviously. The idea is that by utilizing these tools and only these tools, there are a number of inefficiencies that are brought to the table. And these are inefficiencies that, if are simply not dealt with as part of the XBRL process, will just simply make that more of a challenge and continue to be a challenge. So let me highlight a few of these here for you. The first would just simply be the informal data collection and repetitive manual data entry to and from multiple locations. Secondarily, you might have similar information presented in multiple reports. There's an awkward workflow process, if a workflow process even exists within your organization today. Version control is quite challenging, report status tracking is often difficult, and there's no true detailed audit trails of user activities. Well, what does this result in then? It results in limited analysis due to long report creation cycle times, risk of errors which limits the confidence in analysis, and last-minute updates cannot be integrated. Add on to this a substantial decrease in the time available, or perhaps even explanation to your board or to your senior level executives as to perhaps why you have to have an additional pencils down time period, whereas you need to cut off any last-minute updates. You just simply can't get them into the report due to XBRL. And I'm going to further discuss that a little bit more here as we move forward. So why is Cognos FSR and report automation important? Well, your company is under a pressure, like many others, to electronically file and deliver financial statements to local financial regulatory agencies. In this case, the SEC is going to be our focus today. There is a need for quality assurance in the financial results, and nothing less than 100% accuracy in all filings is acceptable. You can take a look at our second timeline here of the day, and effectively XBRL and the specification was announced going back almost basically a decade and a half, or just over a decade now, and that has substantially grown in different areas of the world. And it came to the SEC, it came to and was approved specifically basically going to market around 2009. There was a voluntary program that the SEC did establish going back to 2005, but effectively the majority of organizations would have to start dealing with this in the time frame of 2009 and moving forward. Now, the events and the regulations keep on getting increased. The time allowed for you to continue to file your reports on time never really gets extended. So quite oftentimes what we're seeing organizations do, especially in these times, is turn to technology to help with report automation and to be able to bring in-house at the appropriate time their own XBRL tagging and taxonomy management. Now, experts agree in the manual reporting processes do contain risks, and many of these risks carry over into XBRL. Some of these risks include just simple errors, fraud, overdependence, incorrect interpretation, lack of enterprise interoperability, lack of accuracy, lack of productivity, and a risk of compliance. Some of the outcomes also include financial loss, legal challenges, loss of stock value, loss of reputation, fines and penalties, and job loss perhaps. Here's a quote from one of the leading audit firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, which stated in 2011, "From our work in the current year, we established that 95% of the Excel spreadsheets examined had errors, out of which 80% had significant monetary errors. The example being spreadsheet gives an incorrect result. This is going to have an impact on your XBRL filing. There are many things that need to be in order and many things as part of the process that need to be in place to be able to and be the best adequately able to address the XBRL mandate." And it's quite simply not too late if you have chosen to not address some of these areas before actually entering into your XBRL requirements and filings. So the solution here is Cognos FSR, and this is a solution for XBRL and report process automation. The solution itself leverages quite heavily and extensively, to a degree, Microsoft Office, where users are still going to be able to create their reports. You would still be able to create your report utilizing familiar tools in the tool sets that you have available today. Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, you might be utilizing PowerPoint, creating your different charts and graphs, all of that information which will then need to further afterwards be repurposed into XBRL format. Now Cognos FSR is going to act as the central repository that will do that repurposing for you regardless of what output you actually require, XBRL or simply for internal reporting, in terms of getting your Qs and Ks all set forth, ready to be sent out and ready to be filed. This actually also includes your Edgar filings too, I might add. So here what we have is we have Cognos FSR as an application driving all of your information from a central secure database. You are, again, as I mentioned, is going to leverage the tools already in use, Microsoft Word and Excel, but that is not the only tools that you can bring forward. Now when it comes to data collection, we recognize that much of your information is not always going to simply just be in Excel. There is going to be a certain degree and volume of information that is in Excel, but also your organization, as mentioned earlier on, has very likely invested in some additional technologies around consolidations. There may be an ERP in place, you might have a multi-dimensional database, or you might simply have a data warehouse in combinations of all of those. The idea here is that Cognos FSR can integrate with all of those, regardless of data source, providing you direct access to source data, allowing you to see your changes dynamically be updated in your reports, regardless of format for output that you've chosen, and it's all going to be updated in real time, including your XBRL filings. And I'm going to discuss some of the additional benefits with you as it relates to XBRL here, just upcoming. Now when it comes down to the collaboration, the editing, and the approvals, Cognos FSR is also going to provide for you a very powerful multi-author collaborative environment. There is going to be specific workflow that you can utilize and task management built into the solution as well, so that all of your reviewers, all of your contributors, all of your document managers, your XBRL taggers or taxonomy managers can all be in the system literally at the exact same time without stepping on one another's toes, doing what they need to do, and you're able to manage that process. Now, what you can also begin to start to embed are additional controls, whereas you may have specific checklists incorporated as it relates to XBRL, as it relates to your external or internal auditors, as it relates to specifically just a step-by-step process flow that you would like followed to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row essentially. There's going to be additional business rules that you can take advantage of to give yourself a higher level of confidence in your report outputs and in your XBRL filing at the same time too. I'll discuss further how those business rules save a large degree of time, many hours and many days each quarter, whereas we're removing a lot of the mechanical tasks that you or your team are specifically going through. And I'll give some more examples as we move forward here as well. Now security, as mentioned, is going to be part of the solution where you can have additional filters or limitations on users as to specific pages or tasks, areas of the report that you would like them to be able to see and areas you would like for them not to be able to see. And when it comes down to the actual report, as mentioned, there's going to be report consumers. And this is where your reports are going to be scrutinized both internally and externally. Cognos FSR supports multiple output formats, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, all coming from a single source of information, but the output formats don't stop there. Additional formats for you, which I'll discuss just in a little bit, but discussing some of the additional efficiencies or continuing down that path for a brief moment, is that you have the ability with Cognos FSR to make use of web templates to automate data collection from any of your data contributors anywhere in the world. You'll also be able to create and update content once and automatically update that content across multiple reports in multiple formats all simultaneously. Workflow and task management tools will provide you with greater visibility every step of the process. Now, the business insight that will be provided and will be created will increase time for analysis through reduced data collection cycle times. You're going to be able to pay more attention and create a higher quality report than you are today utilizing Cognos FSR. And a lot of that comes down to simply time. You'll be able to further harness team insights through a multi-author environment. You'll be able to guarantee consistency of data through integration with a single source of the truth, and deliver the latest information through real-time updates. Now, getting back to some of the report outputs, the idea is that we're taking a look at a sample external document here. You can have multiple individuals all working on this document at the exact same time. A number of them could be working and reviewing XBRL. A few of them could be actually doing and performing the XBRL tags. Others may be reviewing the taxonomy itself. Or this could simply be one person or a few persons involved within your organization. The idea is that all participants will be able to do this at the exact same time within our multi-author environment. The output options, extending on some of those which I've already mentioned now, absolutely include XBRL. So you'll be able to build and preview your instance documents, you'll be able to generate those instance documents, and they are ready to file if you would like to self-file. You're also then going to be able to create outputs, which I have not mentioned, in Adobe PDF, utilize Adobe InDesign for higher glossy type annual report outputs. You'll be able to output to HTML format, as well as be able to output with all the appropriate and required eggrization formats so that you can file, once again, in a self-filing manner. Now, Cognos FSR reduces the risk throughout the entire process. Through the close, consolidate, and report phase, there are a number of risks associated with the process. Now, some of these risks include just risks of errors. So right now, a large degree of rekeying of data takes place. There's not always consistency across the report as a result, and numbers may not always be tying out. With Cognos FSR, all of those are gone. They are no longer issues because there is tight integration to your source data. There is the concept of labels or variables in text to promote consistency and dynamically change all places of a number or of a date of your organization name, all at the exact same time by simply having to change it in one place. And there's validation rules that will confirm for you that all of those numbers and all of those changes have accurately been changed. A risk of late filing, typically what we see is a large degree of time spent on reapplying formatting, rolling forward a report manually, picking up and literally moving over columns of data, and rekeying a large volume of data as well. Well, with Cognos FSR, you'll be able to use your prior reports as a template for the next period. We'll automatically load in your new data, as well as automatically load in your XBRL tags. Risk of insider leaks, not present everywhere, and thankfully so. But the idea here is that Cognos FSR will provide you an opportunity to secure your report. You'll be able to provide security around the view and the edit rights of each area or each page of your report if you would like to, perhaps a section of the report. And workflow controls will be able to assist you in creating those access points and overall managing the process. And then finally, risk of non-compliance. This of course does touch home and will hit XBRL, but the idea here is you can put the controls and procedures in place to be better equipped to handle XBRL, whether you're just entering in your phase of the mandate and requirements, or whether you're looking to address some areas of contention essentially that you may have found while dealing with XBRL already. So let's take a look just very briefly at XBRL and what some of the first wave requirements are. And one of those year one requirements is around block tagging. So this is where you're going to need to apply a block tag around each and every financial note that you have. And these are typically notes that are notes for your financial statements. Secondarily, as you progress, that block tag is going to be extended into multiple data points. So you will have to roll forward and bring forward your block tags. Also create block tags for any new and additional financial notes that you may have in future reporting periods. But now you're also going to have one additional tag for each accounting policy found within that note, along with a tag, for each note or each amount, whether it be monetary, a percent, a number. And so the tagging and the volume of tags will substantially increase. Normally this means a longer time would be needed, or a longer window, a longer runway for you, should be needed. Here are some tagging volume estimates, and this came directly from the SEC's website. We estimate that Southern Company would be required to tag approximately 6,800 data elements on the Form 10-K. That came from their Comptroller and Chief Accounting Officer. Here's another from First Energy, their VP Controller and Chief Accounting Officer. We anticipate approximately 5,400 data elements would be required to be tagged, requiring a significant number of extensions to the standard XBRL taxonomies. And we're going to discuss what these extensions and what the taxonomies bring and what they mean to you as well here as we move forward. Finally, here's one from Intercorporation. We estimate that performing detailed footnote tagging would result in approximately 2,500 tagged elements compared to approximately 500 tags required to meet the year one requirements. So quite typically what we see is as an estimate anywhere from 5 to 10 times the volume of tags that you may have in your year one compared with your year two and moving forward filings. So oftentimes this does create additional headaches. This creates additional work for yourself and additional work for those that are actually outsourcing, are looking at outsourcing, or perhaps already are, to your financial printer as an example. This is also where you're going to find your time is even going to be further reduced when you're looking at outsourcing this type of information. And we're going to discuss some of the pros and some of the cons as well as we move through. So let's take a look at the actual window. So here what we can see is that the external reporting and XBRL timelines that you're dealing with typically include your financial consolidations, your external reporting process, and then your SEC filings. And for very much so, you've been able to manage to that filing deadline. Now with the SEC's mandate, that deadline has shrunk, or the window has shrunk specifically. And very much so, this has shrunk with an outsourced XBRL option, as well as by utilizing any bolt-on solutions which are not integrated and not part of your actual external reporting process. So this would be a disadvantage by either outsourcing and or utilizing a tool that is not tightly integrated with your external reporting process. Now, adding on to the fact that you're going to have an increase of tags anywhere from 5 to 10 times within estimates, the idea is that there is so much other work to be done, but yet little time to actually make all of that happen. So the risk of late filing and the risk of errors increases. Now with IBM's Cognos FSR integrated XBRL solution, tagging is much more efficient. The deadline and the window is much more available for you to see the end. Now, we do have Tag One's technology, which makes future reporting even faster as well. This is going to lead to reduced risk of late filing and reduced risk of errors overall. Plus the fact we're going to be able to automate the overall external reporting process so timelines can be further reduced. Again, you're creating additional breathing room here for yourself, lowering anxiety as part of the process, and allowing your attention to be turned to the actual report rather than the mechanical efforts that need to take place, and sometimes in very large volumes, as it relates to the XBRL tagging process and the external reporting process in general. Now let's take a quick look at IBM Cognos FSR versus some of the other SaaS vendors that are out there. Specifically, some of them are bolt-on solutions. Others appear to do a fraction of what IBM Cognos FSR can do. So let's first take a look at IBM Cognos FSR. It's a proven product. Analysts say FSR is the most deployed and proven product for financial statement production. It's a mature product with 4+ years of development and being on the market. Over 350 XBRL submissions, and over 145 of them have been detailed level 4 tag submissions. This number every quarter continues to increase. Obviously a very stable company. IBM just celebrated its centennial anniversary, its 100th year, and the company continues to grow and continues to shine and invest in new and exciting technologies. Financial data remains safe and safely in-house utilizing Cognos FSR. Your financial data is not sent outside of the company. There's a high user adoption with Microsoft Office used as a base, and you're able to link back directly to your source data. You're not copying and pasting information, and you're going to see some of the benefits of that throughout the reporting process as well as for XBRL. Now when it comes to some of the other SaaS vendors, they really are unproven products. There's little, if any, analyst recognition, and they're very typically immature products. They're also very small companies quite often, and more often than not. There is a risk of financial data leaks. Financial data is sent outside the company four walls, the company firewalls. It's sent out and broadcast over the internet essentially. User adoption is quite uncertain. Sometimes use of Google apps or similar apps are used, and these are not normally used by most businesses. So what does that do? That leads to a higher learning curve and a longer learning curve for these applications. And copy and paste in itself of data creates higher risks of errors overall. Now additionally here, some of Cognos FSR and XBRL leadership highlights around the product itself is that it was first to offer XBRL Tag Once capabilities. We are also the first vendor to offer integrated taxonomy editing capabilities. The only major vendor with 0 EFM errors for the first level 4 SEC XBRL submission period. And note that all filers since that first level 4 XBRL submission period have filed and continued to file with 0 EFM errors. There are regular briefings with the SEC staff. FASB has licensed FSR to help manage the XBRL taxonomy project, and IBM Cognos is an active member within the XBRL community. We also have a staff part of IBM Cognos that can assist you, very similar to perhaps the assistance that you've been receiving from your financial printers or filing agents, perhaps even your auditors. There's a full staff of very educated XBRL individuals that are XBRL experts. Perhaps some of them are CPAs, CAs, etc. They are well versed in XBRL, and they are there to help you and support you as you look to perhaps bring this process in-house with Cognos FSR. Now Cognos FSR really is the market-leading integrated XBRL solution. And as mentioned, there are other bolt-on solutions out there that do address a portion of the external reporting process. But Cognos FSR is the truly market-leading integrated XBRL solution that really immerses itself within the complete external reporting process. It gives you many advanced XBRL capabilities and many capabilities around the external reporting process in itself, specifically dealing with automation and providing you additional time to meet the requirements and meet the mandate accurately every single time. Now, it's one thing for me to continue to talk about all the benefits specifically that IBM Cognos FSR can bring and compare it to outsourcing XBRL or bolt-on solutions. But the idea is that it's nice to see that leading analysts in this space are also recognizing the beliefs and the position that IBM Cognos FSR is able to put our clients and to put clients who choose to adopt our technology specifically. So here Gartner said back in 2009 around outsourced XBRL that the work for the initial tagging requirements could perhaps be in the hundreds of disclosure elements in the first phase. However, given the ramp up of XBRL requirements, this could be very quickly into the thousands of disclosure elements within future phases. So these organizations may find themselves at a disadvantage because they have outsourced their XBRL capabilities and have not built up expertise in the application and use of XBRL. Now, adding to that fact, with outsourced XBRL, there is a higher risk of late filing. You are not in complete control of your timeline any longer. In fact, quite traditionally, there's actually an additional pencils down period that is imposed upon your organization. There's a greater difficulty in dealing with last-minute changes as a result, and without IBM Cognos FSR Tag 1's capability, there's a higher risk of errors, and with higher penalties due to increasing liability at the same time. Now, outsourcing costs will become prohibitive with detailed tagging. Outsourced providers will have difficulty servicing clients with detailed tagging as well.